all the way up. And exhale back and down. Keeping your palms turned forward, repeat. Shoulder shrug, inhale up. Exhale back and down. One more time, great big shoulder shrug, inhale all the way up. Exhale back and down. Spread your fingers, spread your toes, stand up tall, lifting up through the crown of your head, rooting down through the soles of your feet. Keeping your knees slightly bent as you spread those fingers and flare your toes. Find your breath, turning your attention inward. Let that breath come in and out through your nose, smooth and steady. Keeping your knees unlocked. With an inhale, open your eyes, sweep your arms up and overhead. And exhale, release your arms down to your sides. Turn your palms forward, do a shoulder shrug. Inhale up. Exhale back and down. Inhale, both arms up and overhead. Exhale down to your sides. Again, palms forward for a shoulder shrug. Inhaling up. Exhaling back and down. This time we'll add in a forward fold. Inhale, both arms up and overhead. As you exhale, bend your knees, swan dive down, forward fold. Let your arms dangle as you inhale, shoulder shrug, come halfway up. And exhale, melt down into that forward fold. Bend over, reach down, find your two blocks, and put one block underneath each hand. So with hands on blocks, separate your feet as wide apart as your mat, and begin to shift your weight from side to side, letting your hips swing and sway. With hands on block, you help support some of the weight of your torso, take the strain off your back. And as you swish and sway your hips from side to side, continue to let your head hang. And coming to neutral, knees are bent. Release your blocks with an inhale, circle sweep, arms up and overhead, come to standing. And exhale, release your arms down to your sides, palms forward, shoulder shrug, inhaling up. Exhale back and down. Repeat, inhale, both arms up and overhead. Knees are bent as you exhale, swan dive down into that forward fold, letting your arms dangle. Inhale, come halfway up. And exhale, melt back down. This time you're going to take your hands to the floor. Do keep those blocks nearby. Put your hands on the floor and come down to hands and knees. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see the profile view. On hands and knees, you might consider putting some padding underneath your bony knees. So knees go beneath hips, hands beneath your shoulders, toes curled under for that added foot stretch. And let your hips swing and sway side to side here. With those toes curled under, work to get those pinky toes curled under too. Let those hips swing and sway side to side. So it is a bit of a challenge to keep those toes curled under, but it does give you a little bit more of a toe and foot stretch if you do so. And then coming to neutral, make sure all 10 toes are curled under, and then sit back towards your heels. Find those blocks, and you can use those blocks beneath your hands to control how much weight you put down on those heels. So toes are tucked under, pinky toes really tucked under nice and tight. And you can use those blocks to lift or lower as much weight as you can tolerate onto those feet. Shoulders back, chest lifted, pull in your front ribs, pull in your belly, and do your best to keep breathing. Really waking those toes up. And then release. Untuck those toes, roll your ankles around. And roll the other way, big loopy ankle circles. And coming to neutral, toes curled under once again, all 10 toes curled under. And this time press back, wiggle back through that right heel to stretch the right leg straight. Pressing back through the heel, getting a strong calf muscle stretch. Front ribs and belly are pulled in. Again, hands are beneath your shoulders. You might consider pulling your belly, your heart up away from the floor to lift some of the weight out of your hands, maybe even come up onto fingertips as you press back through that right heel. And release and switch. All 10 toes curled under, press back through that left heel, extending the left leg, calf muscle stretch. Front ribs and belly pulled up, lifting some of the weight out of your hands if you can. Press back nice and hard. And release. All right. Hands go flat, spread your fingers wide, toes curled under. Exhale, arch your back for cat pose. Inhale, head up, tail up, come into cow. And keep moving. Exhaling for cat. Inhaling for cow. Waving your spine back and forth. And the next time you exhale into that cat pose, keep your belly, your midsection lifted as you lift your knees up and hips up back into a downward facing dog. Take your feet as wide apart as your mat and take your dog for a walk, pedaling your feet. Combining the last couple of stretches here as you swing and sway your hips side to side, pedal your feet, press down through one heel then the other, stretch out your calves, let your head hang. And do keep your front ribs and belly pulled up into your body so that you don't collapse through your shoulders as you take your happy dog for a walk. And then walk your dog all the way up to your hands. Once again, find those blocks with one block underneath each hand. Feet are as wide apart as the mat. And you swish and sway your hips side to side. Come to neutral, hands transfer up onto your lap, and with an inhale, climb all the way up. Let's finish by sweeping arms up and overhead. And exhale, release arms down to your sides, palms forward, shoulder shrug, big yawn, inhale up. Exhale, back and down. Inhale, both arms up. Knees bent, swan dive down into that forward fold. Arms dangle, inhale, come halfway up. And exhale, release. Once again, hands come all the way down to the floor. Hands and knees come all the way down to the floor. This time, let your toes point backwards. In fact, bring your big toes together. Let your knees go wide and back your hips up to your heels. I do have my blocks within arm's reach here, keeping them nearby. Coming up onto fingertips, big toes together, knees apart, hips back on your heels. First time we came down, we swished our hips from side to side. Well, now we're going to swish our shoulders, our torso from side to side. So come up onto fingertips and walk both hands over to the right, curving your upper body off the side of your mat. And breathe into those left side ribs. Crawl both hands back to starting position, and then crawl both hands to the other side of your mat, curving off to the side. And come back to neutral. All right, we're going to repeat. Walking both hands over to the right, hips back on your heels. Come up onto fingertips now. And with an inhale, press down into your right hand. Let your left arm float as you open your side body towards the sky. And exhale, round down. So using that right hand as a kickstand, inhale, open side stretch. And exhale, round down. 2 more just like that. And release. Same thing, other side, walking both hands to the left. And now the right hand will be the kickstand. As you inhale, open, open, open. And exhale, round down. 3 more on this side. You've done 4 breaths on this side. You'll come back to center. Curl your toes under. Spread your fingers wide. And lift your hips up for that downward facing dog. Take your feet as wide apart as the mat. Jog your hips from side to side. And try to pull your hips out of your shoulders. Your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is to pull your shirt out of your pants without using your hands. So pull in your tummy and try to pull your shirt out of your back waistband without using your hands. Big swing, hips side to side. And then slowly bring your feet narrow, close to one another. Keep your toes curled under as you rise up on the tippy toes. Shift your body weight forward. Set your knees down. Once again, I'll turn sideways so you can see the profile view. Toes are curled under. Now sit back over your heels for round 2. Make sure those pinky toes are curled under as well. You're going to let your heels flare out to the side so those little piggies are really squealing. And maybe to distract you just a little bit as you do this, heels flare out to the sides. You're going to take your arms out in front, turn your palms down and out. So palms are facing sideways. And then crossing out the wrists, interlace your fingers. Keep your elbows unlocked as you take your knuckles in, up, and out. And get a little bit of a wrist stretch. You are in charge of how heavily you sit down on those heels. So you can come up to kneeling if you're really crying on the inside, or sit down heavy if you like it. You can always just cheat and untuck your toes too. All right, slowly unwind and notice which wrist is on top and recross. Put the other wrist on top, interlacing your fingers, knuckles in, up, and out. You're getting that wrist stretch. And do your best to keep breathing. All right. Not sure which one is worse, the hands or the feet. You're going to unwind. Maybe shake out those wrists. Lean forward. Once again, roll out those ankles. Point and flex. Waggle those feet. Get the blood flowing back into those piggies. And once again, toes curled under, on hands and knees. Again, the floor can be quite hard. You might want some padding underneath your knees. On hands and knees, all 10 toes curl under, hands beneath your shoulders. You're going to stretch that right leg straight back and your right hand forward, one hand print. With your right leg stretched straight back, your right hand stretched forward. Find the outer right hip pocket and drop it down to the ground. So you're going to pivot on the ball of that right foot and let the right heel swing wide out to the side. Dropping that right hip out. Maybe I'll turn my back to you so you can see this. Dropping that right hip down towards the ground. If you like that, come back to neutral and let's cross the midline with that right foot. Right foot swings to the left and we'll do the same thing. Right hand is forward, one hand print. You're going to pivot on the ball of that right foot and drop the outer right hip down towards the ground. Feeling that SI joint, sacroiliac joint on the right side of your hip, pry open, outer hip stretch, side body stretch. And reset. And we'll do the same on the other side. So from hands and knees, left leg extends back, left hand comes forward, pivot on the ball, that left foot, dropping that left hip down to the ground. Just taking a moment here, breathe. And then if you want even more intensity, take that left leg, sweep it across midline over to the right, and continue to drop that left outer hip down towards the ground. And reset. All right, all 10 toes curled under. Lift your hips up for your downward facing dog. Let your feet go as wide apart as your mat. Locate your right hand. You're going to take your right hand, run it down the inside of your left leg. Look underneath that left armpit and feel that right shoulder blade peel away from your spine. Head is hanging. And switch. Left hand runs down the inside of the right leg. Feeling that left shoulder blade peel away from your spine. And reset. Both hands to the floor. And this time, walk your hands to your feet. Find yourself at the back edge of your yoga mat. Hands transfer up onto your lap as you come all the way up to standing. Big inhale, both arms up and overhead. And exhale, release arms down to your sides. Palms forward, shoulder shrug, big yawn. Inhale up. And exhale back and down. Inhale, both arms up and overhead. Knees bent, swan dive down, forward fold. Inhale, come halfway up, shoulder shrug. And exhale, melt. Find those blocks once again. Hands go on blocks. Standing towards the, I guess, whatever end of your mat, front end of your mat. Take a giant step back with your right foot. We're going to turn this into a pyramid pose. So those hands are on blocks. Back foot hops a little bit wide out to the side. Or you could wiggle the front foot wide out to the side. So there's length and some width between your feet. Hands on blocks directly beneath your shoulders. It can be up on the ball of the back foot. The back heel might not touch down. And you're going to take that back heel, swing it in and swing it out. And as you pivot on the ball of the back foot, twist your hips side to side and pry open those hips a little bit more. So I'm pivoting on the ball of the back foot. I've got hands on blocks, so I'm in control. There's width between my feet, so I can do this without falling over. And you're twisting your pelvis. So if that's your right foot behind you, you're going to swing that right heel to the right, swing your right hip forward, the outer right hip pocket towards the front edge of your mat, and let that pocket change fall out of that right hip pocket down towards the ground. Looking down at the front leg, that would be your left leg, you're going to turn your left knee to the left and admire the arch in your foot. As you pull your legs a little bit straighter. This is pyramid pose. So the front knee turns out so that there is an arch in the front foot. The front leg is unlocked. It might look straight, but it feels unlocked to you. And again, you're dumping the pocket change out of that right hip pocket. Ideally, your hips are level. And you could put a plate across your butt and serve lunch. And then release. You're going to shuffle switch, stepping back now with your left foot. And we'll repeat on the other side. So hands on blocks beneath your shoulders, take some width as well as length between your feet. And then you're going to pivot on the ball of the back foot and let your hips swing and sway, twist and shout. All those different muscle fibers in the backs of your legs and in your hips to stretch. The wider apart you take your feet side to side, the more twist and swish and sway you'll get in your hips. So let there be length and width. And then finally find the outer right heel, swing it wide, dump the pocket change out of your left hip pocket. Pulling both legs as straight as they're willing to go this morning. Do your best to keep breathing as you square off and level your hips. This is pyramid pose. And then from pyramid pose, let's transition to our downward facing dog. So fingers spread wide to the ground, stepping back into your downward facing dog. And as you pedal your feet, press down through one heel then the other. Let your hips jog from side to side. Really press those heels wide so you can stretch your inner heels back for more leg stretch. So endeavor to stretch those inner heels back. Press your inner thighs back. Get a good stretch. Depending on your mat situation, you're going to be stepping your feet wide. For me, that just means stepping forward, stepping wide. And transfer onto a mat so that you can still see the screen with your feet wide apart. Hands come up onto your lap and come all the way up to standing. So this is where it's nice if you've got two mats set up that you can just transfer to the other one. Feet go nice and wide. Ankles underneath your wrists. So nice wide feet. So we twisted and shifted the hips. Now we're going to twist and shift the shoulders. You let my toes turn out. And as soon as you turn your toes out, you got to bend your knees a little bit to maintain balance. And then go for it. Really spread those thighs wide. Drop down into what's known as horse stance. Toes turn out, knees go wide. Hands are braced. Fingers can be in, fingers can be out. You can be on fists. I don't care what you do as long as your wrists are happy. Keep both elbows bent. Turn and look over your right shoulder. And let that left shoulder blade peel away from your spine, twisting your torso. Inhale to center and exhale, twist the other way. Twisted horse stance. Letting the right shoulder blade peel away from your spine. Keep pushing your knees wide. You might even glance down at those feet. See that you have an arch in each foot. And inhale to center. Knees wide, arches lifted. Twist the other way. Inhale up. Exhale, twist. And inhale to center. Hands on your lap, slowly come all the way up to standing. Now let's turn all 10 toes to the right. All 10 toes to the right. Again, wide stride between your feet. Shoulders up, back, and down. And come into that warrior two. Swinging that right knee wide so that there's an arch in that right foot. Shoulders down away from your ears. Think about kicking your elbows backwards as you extend your arms out. When you kick your elbows backwards, the bat wings don't hang down so badly. Shoulders down, chest lifted. Elbows back and up. And breathe. And come on up, and let's pivot feet to go the other direction. All 10 toes pointed to the left. Shoulders up, back, and down as you come into that warrior two. Think about kicking your elbows backwards, lifting your elbows up. Turning that left knee out to the left, have an arch in that left foot. And inhale up. Let's switch once again. Repeating warrior two, all 10 toes turning out to the right. Shoulders up, back, and down, gliding into warrior two, kicking those elbows backwards. And here is the challenge. Arms extended. Cross that left arm underneath and go for eagle arms. Shoulders down away from your ears. Eagle arms in warrior two stance. Feel that spread between your shoulder blades. Shoulders down away from your ears. And inhale, open, stand up. And let's switch sides. Pivot all 10 toes to the left. Shoulders down away from your ears. Warrior two stance. And now the right arm goes underneath for eagle arms. Shoulders away from your ears. Nice, long, elegant neck. Left knee turns out so there's an arch in that left foot. And inhale, open. All 10 toes turn in, hinging over into that forward fold. Toes in, heels out. Keeping a slight bend in your knees, pressing your heels wide, spreading those sit bones. Once you feel strong and secure, if it works for you, you can take your hands behind your back, clasp your hands together, and press your knuckles up towards the sky. The more you unlock those knees, spread those heels, the more stretch you'll feel in the back of your legs. And once again, hands come to your hips. Hands slide down your legs all the way to the floor. And I'm going to transfer back to the other mat as I step back into a downward facing dog. So join me in down dog with both hands and feet on the same surface. And then rise to tippy toes, shift your body weight forward, bend your knees down to the mat. Still with your toes curled under, press your hips back to your heels. Fingers are spread wide. Going to lift your head up, look forward, see what's happening there. Swing your elbows in narrow. Put your elbows down on the mat. Turn your palms up. Now I've got long sleeves on, so I'm going to pull my sleeves out of the way because I want my skin to stick to the mat really well. I also want you to see that I'm putting my elbows in narrow and I'm hitchhiking my thumbs out to the sides. So the thumb side of the elbow, I'm trying to tuck in as narrow as possible. And I'm clasping my hands together, dropping my head and lifting hips up for dolphin pose. I have no idea why it's called dolphin. Down dog with elbows on the floor. Pulling in your front is pulling in your belly. Up on your tippy toes. Let your hips swing and sway side to side. Letting your head hang. And then from here, rise up onto tippy toes, bend your knees back down to the floor, and crawl back into that kneeling position for the third time, sitting back over your heels. Make sure those pinky toes are curled under. Do your best to breathe. Stay here a beat. You get to come back up into that either downward facing dog or dolphin pose, whichever you prefer. And in that dolphin pose or dog, whatever you choose to do, flip the toes of one foot backwards and then flip the toes of the other foot backward to get the blood to flow back into those toes. So please join me in either down dog or dolphin pose, your choice, and stretch your toes backwards. Make sure you do both feet. And then once again, you get to step your feet wide. Nice wide forward fold. Bend your knees, hands come up onto your lap. Come all the way up to standing. So hopefully you're very aware of your feet at this point, because once again, we're going to turn all 10 toes to the right. Find those blocks, wherever those got off to. You have one block on either side of your mat. All 10 toes turned out to the right. Inhale, arms up. And exhale, arms down. Shoulders down away from your ears, coming into that warrior two stance. Elbows kick backwards and up, extending out through those arms. Once again, let's take that. What arm is this? Right arm underneath, going for those eagle arms. Shoulders away from your ears. Feel that spread between your shoulder blades. We want to have that feeling of spread between the shoulder blades. right knee bent. As you inhale, open those arms, shift out to the right, hinge over, find that block. You're going to shift your weight onto that right foot and open up into your half moon pose. And in this half moon pose, try spreading between those shoulder blades, almost like you were doing eagle arms in this pose, that feeling of spread between the shoulder blades. Standing knee is unlocked. Toes are spread. Foot taking up maximum space on the floor for best support. And soften the standing knee, touch down, and come all the way up. And let's switch sides. So the wider the base of support, the more stable you'll be. That's why we've done all those toe stretches this morning. So we can really spread the supporting foot on the ground. Let's turn all 10 toes to the left. Inhale, arms up and down and into that warrior two. Elbows kicking out. Chest is open. Let's take that left arm underneath. Feel that spread between the shoulder blades. Pulling in your front ribs, pulling in your belly a little bit. Make a mental note of what it feels like to have your shoulders away from your ears, a nice long, elegant neck, that spread between your shoulder blades. Then extend those arms out and reach out. You're going to tip over. Left hand comes to a block. Shift your weight over onto your left foot for your half moon pose. Standing knee is unlocked. There's an arch in that bottom foot. The knee is turned out. The knee is unlocked. Spreading between your shoulder blades, pulling in your front ribs, pulling in your belly. Half moon. And release. And inhale, come all the way up. Let's just tick-tock right to the other side. Back into that half moon pose. Sometimes if you just go into it without thinking, it just happens a little bit easier. And touch down, come up, and go right into the second side. Tip on over. Don't forget to pivot your feet, switching sides. And then finally come on down for a landing. Standing up, big inhale all the way up. And exhale. Feet are nice and wide, still toes turned in, heels kicked out. Big inhale, both arms up. Knees unlocked as you exhale, swan dive down, forward fold. Reach around, find your blocks, one of them at least. Put that block beneath your hands. Keep your hips stapled back over your heels and push that block forward as far as it will go. And when it won't go any further, tip the leading edge of the block away for a big side stretch. The hips are stapled back over your heels, toes in, heels out, knees unlocked, spreading your backside and stretching your side body long. Keeping that lovely length in your side body, transfer to a downward facing dog. And then finally come on down. All right, let's have a seat. So find those two blocks and arrange them in what I call butt cheek configuration. So you've got one block for each cheek, and sit towards the back edge of your mat with your belt and your other toys nearby. Legs go out in front of you as you sit down on those blocks. I'm going to take this belt and loop it over the bottoms of my feet, right where the arch meets the ball of the foot. Right where the arch meets the ball of the foot. This is supposed to be a reflexology point for the diaphragm. So with that belt looped across the ball, where the ball meets the arch of the foot, I've also taken the belt and looped it around the back of my hands a few times so I can hold on to it without aggravating carpal tunnel. Shoulders back, chest lifted, sitting on the front edge of those sit bones, kind of butt walk to the front edge of your blocks, kind of sit up nice and tall. Shoulders drop down and take some nice deep breaths. I'm pulling back on the belt a little bit so there's pressure across the bottoms of my feet. I'm doing big chesty breaths. Trying to get that diaphragm, that breathing muscle to stretch. Maximum inhales, maximum exhales. This is Dandasana, or staff pose. Kind of look like a bookend. Think about pressing your inner thighs down, sticking out your butt, sitting up tall on the front edge of your sit bones. Notice where your breath goes. Tends to go, for me, in the front and maybe a little bit into the side ribs. So your challenge is to maybe shift your attention and your breath into those back ribs a little bit. Soften across that back bra band. Find a little bit more breath there underneath the tips of your shoulder blades. So this pose is really lovely for checking in with your breath and noticing where you harden or tense up. And then massage it with breath. All right. I'm going to unwind my hands here and cross the belt. So now the belt is crossed. Shoulders are down, chest is open, elbows are wide. And I'm going to advance my chest forward without hardening those back ribs. So pull your chest forward, pull on the belt, tip over any amount at all, and then breathe into those back ribs. And maybe wiggle your chest forward a little bit further. Elbows are wide, elbows flare out to the side, so keep those elbows up as you pull yourself over a little bit further. Check in with your breath. Maybe find a little bit more breath in those back ribs. And advance further and keep going. Elbows wide, holding on a little closer and closer to your feet, keeping those elbows up, hinging over a little bit further, checking in with your breath, breathing into those back ribs. Keep working it. Keep pressing your inner thighs down, sticking your butt out, sitting on the front edge of those sit bones. And when you get to a point where you're not going any further, then you can just drop the belt, reach down, hold on to your feet, and continually check in with your breath, breathing into those back ribs. Dropping the belt, dropping your hands to the floor, press into your hands to sit up. Oh. All right, you're gonna take your feet wide. Nice and wide. spread out your backside. Palms forward, shoulder shrug. Inhale up and back and down. Left hand's going to be in your lap. Right arm comes up and over into that side stretch. And breathe. Now, if you need to support your head, you can use one hand or the other. Hold on to your head. Whatever you need to do so that your neck is comfortable. You're going to be here a little while, so don't be shy about supporting your head if you need to. And breathe. Checking in with your breath. Notice where the breath naturally goes right into those side ribs. Think about breathing into the back ribs a little bit more. Use the bottom hand on the ground. Inhale, come all the way up. And let's switch sides. So right hand in your lap, left arm up. And tip over. And once again, don't be shy about holding on to your head if you need to support your neck. And then settle in. Find that breath in your side body. Try to put a little bit more breath into those back ribs. Bottom hand helps you up. Inhale, come all the way up. All right. And close up. Legs go closed. Legs go out in front once again. This time you're going to bend the right knee out to the side, putting foot against leg, leg against foot. If you feel like you're tipping over to one side, you can get a third block or a pillow, put a little something underneath that bent knee, keep you from falling over. So foot against thigh, thigh against foot. And you really want a solid contact here. There are lymph nodes on the inside of your thigh, in your armpit, on the side of your neck, all the warm, damp, sweaty spots on your body. That's where the lymph nodes are. So pressing the foot against the leg, leg against the foot, you're said to help squeeze the lymph nodes, get that lymphatic fluid circulating in the body. Now, if you've been tired, you've been sick lately, there might be some sore spots in the neck and the armpit and the groin. But it's said that this is supposed to be good for the immune system because it helps that lymphatic drainage. Take it with a grain of salt if you're into that kind of thing. But just notice if you got some sore spots in there, that might be one explanation for it. So foot against leg, leg against foot. Left leg is straight, the foot is flexed flat. Shoulders are up, back, and down. Now, if you know you don't reach down and touch your foot regularly, usually you might consider having that belt go across that diaphragm line between the ball and the arch of the foot. Shoulders back, chest lifted, and you're going to turn your chest towards that straight leg. Maybe get your belly up on top of the straight leg. Elbows go wide, elbows up as you hinge forward. To that first stopping point, wherever that happens to be, find a little softness in your back ribs, a little breath in your back body. And then go a little further forward. Elbows up, hinging forward, breathing into your back body. Now, if you do normally reach down and touch your foot, go ahead. But think about keeping those elbows out to the side. Hands go to the floor. Use your hands to press yourself up and switch sides. Now the right leg goes out straight, the left knee bends, foot against leg, leg against foot. There are versions of this pose where you get the heel all the way up into the pelvic floor. There's versions of this pose where you're kind of sitting on that foot, really stimulating the pelvic floor, really smushing all sorts of bits and pieces there, getting all sorts of circulation to happen. But for now, again, be mindful of the knee. Don't be shy about propping it up using some support there. Also, it keeps you from tipping off to the side. And get your belly up on top of that straight leg, shoulders back, chest lifted, elbows up as you hinge forward. And if you can get that band, that belt across the ball of the foot where the ball meets the arch of the foot, again, you're stimulating that diaphragm point, helping you to breathe a little deeper. So do pay attention to your breath. And try to get into those back ribs with each and every breath. As you continue to hinge forward, keep those elbows up so you've got plenty of breath space in those side ribs. And finally, hands to the floor, press yourself on up to sit. All right, you get to lie down. And do keep your blocks and your belt nearby. Lie down on your back. Pillow can go underneath your head, if you like. Let your feet go wide. Arms out to the sides. And let those knees tick-tock side to side like windshield wipers. Prying open the front of your hips. We were just bent in half for a little while there. So opening up the front of the hips as you tick-tock windshield wiper those legs side to side. The next time your knees fall over to the right, curl up into a ball on your right side. Hike those knees in tight, close to your chest. Put a pillow or block underneath your head and stack your hands one on top of the other. Locate that left hand and with an inhale, sweep that left hand across the sky like a rainbow. The highest point of that rainbow, bend that left elbow, left hand comes to your ribs and encourage your rib cage to turn open towards the ceiling. Lift the top leg up first, the bottom leg up second. and roll completely over onto your left side, curling up into a ball. Again, pillow or block underneath your head as necessary. One hand on top of the other. With an inhale, sweep that right arm across the sky like a rainbow. Highest point of the rainbow, hands come to your ribs and encourage your ribs to open up towards the sky. And then unwind. Once again, come back onto your side body. Use your hands on the floor to press yourself up to sit. We're going to set up an alternative to Shavasana. And this alternative is back over blocks, or I call it dead fish. I've got one block on the low level and one block on medium. The low level blocks are going to hit right underneath the shoulder blades, and the medium height block goes underneath your head. If you need more height, you can cover the whole situation up with a blanket or a pillow to make it softer and make it a little bit more intense. That's how the blocks are set up. Notice there's a gap between the two blocks. So I put the blocks down, and then I put myself down on top of the blocks. So one block goes underneath the shoulder blades, touching that broad band. The other block goes at the base of your skull. There is nothing underneath your neck and nothing underneath your waist. You have options for the legs. You can put the bottom of your feet together for butterfly pose. You can turn your toes in, let your knees tent together for constructive rest variation, or you can stretch your legs out straight, whatever you prefer. I like this one. It's a little less arch in my back if I have my knees bent and feet flat. Toes turned in, knees leading together is one option, or like I said, you can take your legs out straight. If when you take your legs out straight, you can reach down and kind of spread your butt out. Open your chest, open your arms out to the sides, really snow angel. Starfish yourself on the floor. So lots of options here. Whatever variation works best for you. Or if you're doing the butterfly pose, bottom of your feet together, you might consider tucking some pillows or blankets underneath the knees so that your legs don't sag too far open. You don't want to overstretch your inner thighs. Depending on how long you're staying in this pose, you might consider propping up and supporting yourself a little bit more. So choose your variation, whatever works for you. Now in the chest, usually the block is half an inch high or half an inch low away from being comfortable. So if you're laying here and you're still not settling in, it's still not feeling breathable, like you can take nice deep breaths, consider moving the block half an inch higher up towards your head or half an inch lower down towards your hips. Again, the bottom edge of the blocks, you want to kind of hit you right at the tips of the shoulder blades. If you're not sure where the tips of your shoulder blades are, you might be able to find your nipples and take the nipple line and wrap it around to your back body. And that should intersect the bottom edge of that block. So different landmarks you can use to set this up. If the blocks are just not working for you, absolutely remove them. And then settle in. Find your breath. And again, maybe immediately you notice this. Much easier to breathe into your front ribs and into your side ribs. It takes a little bit more challenge to breathe into those back ribs. So go for that. Take some nice back rib breaths. And as you breathe against those blocks, you might need to shift and adjust your shoulders and your arms a few times as you create space and take up space.